How y'all doing? I'm Reginald Bullock here with Trey for Just Living Life, and this is our second
Yep.
time recording. So thank you for rejoining us. And Trey, what do you have to say?
I got a question. Like, should we call this episode 2 or episode 1? I had it personally as episode 1 because it was, the pilot was the last time. So that's why I just wanted to make sure. 'Cause you said 2, but they might have gotten confused. So I just want to make sure they understand. I was gonna classify it as episode 1. You got any problems with that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Now, the difference is, though, suppose we edit it and break it into different sections.
Mm,
Like the first one we did was pretty long.
it was pretty
How
good.
many? How long was
I think I had like 23 to 26 segments out of that.
it? Yeah. So is each segment an episode?
It's like the overall thing would be an episode. Each one, each smaller piece, each smaller video would be a segment in itself. So that's what it'll be. But each overall video, like the long one, that hour long, 2 hour long,
So
possibly,
E1,
yeah,
S1, E1, S2,
yeah.
E1, S3. So this is E2.
This will be We'll make this one E1. Let's make this one E1.
What was the last one?
The pilot E0.
Okay. This is us, just living life here with Trey. And this is reality. And the thing that we wanted to do was to have two people who are not necessarily putting things together in a static way that, we rehearsed this for days and days and days. And now you're getting the show based on how we rehearsed it. No, you're getting authentic, real talk from real brothers who live real life because we just live it and we're sharing it with you. And what you just heard is an example of just how things come together. And
Yeah.
that's the reality of how things come together in life. So,
Exactly. That was a very ad hoc question. It was a very ad hoc question I gave you. But you talked about changing a foundation, or we talked about changing a foundation, building upon a foundation. So what's the difference for you between building upon a foundation or I guess building a foundation versus expanding? Because I think some people think that it might be the same thing, but I personally think it's different. So
why do you think it's different?
So I think when you think building a foundation, that's like starting up, right? Like you said, like there was a foundation that was put on top of something else. Well, like expansion is that put on top of something
I
else.
understand what
So
you're saying.
yes, that's
So
why.
to that extent, yeah, you're true. I mean, Amazon built the foundation
Mhm,
and then they expanded.
mhm, mhm.
So, and they're still expanding, right? They got
Right.
AWS. That's the expansion of what they had already built.
Mhm.
We're saying the same thing.
Right.
But if we were to expound upon the expansion of the foundation,
Mhm.
right? I think it is, do you have a solid foundation that no matter what, it's gonna stand true and is solid.
Mhm.
And if you did nothing else, that foundation in and of itself allows you to grow
Right.
at whatever the normal rate is
Mhm.
of growth. If you're building houses, well, you used to build, 10 houses and now you build 20 and now you build 100.
Mhm.
But the expansion of it could be, you don't just build houses, you handle landscaping, you handle financing, you handle other types of real estate, not just houses. You deal with office buildings and you deal with farmland, and now you're selling equipment.
Mhm.
And now you're dealing with all of the appliances that go into the house. And now you have a HGTV channel and you're selling other stuff. And now you have, and folks come from the hip hop community, pimp my house, And so that's expansion.
Mhm.
But you started off just building houses.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, when you have a strong foundation, right? I think it's very easy to build upon.
Mhm.
But then I also think maybe it's not though, because it's still you're still building, you're still evolving, you're still growing. So would you say it's strong? It's easy to build upon a strong foundation, or is it just an easier task compared to if you're not? Because I started to think it's easy, but then I realized it's still hard work. You're still hustling in the day. So I think some people might think it's easy, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I kind of changed my thought process.
I think it's easier,
Mm,
but not easy.
mm,
Having a foundation, a solid foundation is solid. It's good. You can work with that.
right.
Here's an example. There are so many different types of structures
Mm,
that are built over top of water. But in order for those structures to be there, they must have a foundation.
Right.
It starts with pilings in the ground, building a bridge,
Yeah.
right? And so somehow you got to dig into the ground, get it solid, build all these pilings, and then work from that
Mhm.
to build a foundation. Once you have that foundation, you can go high, you can go wide, you can do whatever you need to do.
Mhm.
But until you have that foundation, so those are the pilings there. Now you can go in many different directions from there. I think that therefore, once you have that, it's easier to put a lighting system on a bridge.
Mhm.
It's easier to expand a bridge.
Mhm.
It's easier to improve upon the bridge. But until you have that solid foundation of a bridge, the rest of the stuff can never happen.
Okay. Okay. Now, what if you're trying to expand upon a shaky foundation? What's the actually? Let me ask this.
It's called risk.
It's called risk.
Mhm.
There's also positive risk too, though. Like I think sometimes when you're building upon a strong foundation, you can have risk as well too. Like
Oh, definitely can have risk.
yeah,
But if you're building upon a shaky foundation, the simple fact that it's shaky,
mhm.
is that a foundation?
I mean, some people like to work with shaky.
I get it, but that's not a foundation.
That's fair. That's fair. It's not a good foundation to build upon. So when you were saying earlier, we were talking earlier about like it's not, it's hard to tear down and erase a foundation. When I'm
I
thinking,
didn't say that.
I thought you said that earlier. In terms of like it's harder to like you said it was harder to like erase a foundation completely.
No, I didn't say erase it completely. I don't think I said that. We'll see in the
Yeah,
replay.
that's what was in the
But I
replay.
don't think I said erase it completely. We may have been talking something else. But go ahead. What's
Okay,
your point?
so if you have a shaky foundation, how hard is it to erase that shaky foundation? Because to me, I realize, okay, well, some things I probably built
Why would you
upon
want
myself.
to erase any foundation, to include a shaky foundation?
Well, I mean, if you
So
build
you're saying
upon a
how hard it is?
shaky, well, if you build upon a shaky foundation, like if you're building upon a house and it has a terrible
I mean, you can
foundation,
destroy the foundation.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, should you? I guess, like,
Destroy it.
yeah, like, or and then how hard is that destruction of the.
I mean, it depends on what industry we're talking about. So sometimes you can, shore up your foundation.
Mhm.
And then if you don't do it and it's shaky, then yeah, it could destroy itself. For
Okay.
instance, Blockbusters versus Netflix.
Mhm.
Blockbusters had a strong foundation, and Netflix had, or Redbox, whatever it was, had a
Redbox and
strong
then yeah.
foundation. And then it became shaky.
Mhm.
Blockbuster had the opportunity to shore up its foundation.
Mhm.
It didn't, and then it went out of business. It crumbled.
See, that could have been. So I guess when I'm thinking of like my business, right? Like, for example, the one I was telling you about,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of okay, what do I want it to be now? How can it evolve? Like things like that. I'm trying to think, okay, can I go nationwide? Can
Mhm.
I be international? Like who knows? So I guess in using Blockbuster as that example, did they really have a strong foundation? Because it seems like maybe they didn't have the tools to evolve.
Now they had a strong foundation. They just didn't have right leadership.
Mm, okay,
I mean,
okay,
they had the opportunity. It was presented to them. They
mm,
could have bought Netflix.
okay, okay,
They did not believe in the future of internet television and movies.
okay, okay,
They didn't believe in that.
okay.
This big disc that you put into a machine is it, and we're the top of the world.
Right. See, I don't know why I've been thinking maybe the foundation should think if you haven't thought of what your foundation could expand into, I don't know if I want to call you call that a good foundation. For example, if somebody who's like playing basketball, right? If they're trying to train and all this good stuff, but what do you think you ultimately can be? Like, what have you what about basketball have you studied? Like, have you looked at your parents, say, okay, well, I might be this tall, or I need to get this skill set and see because it like Steph Curry probably just saw himself as a shooter
Mhm.
and he evolved, blossomed into something spectacular, but he probably practiced this stuff at home too.
Right, right.
So his foundation looks pretty great right now because he probably thought of all this stuff too. So like when I see people who haven't evolved or can't evolve, but they have a solid foundation, I'm thinking maybe you didn't have the best foundation because your foundation is
No,
short term.
they could have a solid foundation a poor work ethic,
Okay.
or lack of
Okay.
motivation, or be lazy,
That's tough.
or just haven't been exposed to the same things that other people were exposed to, or didn't have the means and the resources to take it further to do what they wanted to do.
It's tough because I remember. So when we were talking about hustler and intelligence and stuff like that, I kind of think of like planning, right?
Mhm.
And so when I think of like foundation, that requires some planning. At least I would hope so, because
Not everybody knows how to plan, because
yeah,
that's a foundation in of itself, right?
that's true.
How do you learn how to plan if nobody's ever taught you how to plan? Just because you can dribble a basketball and shoot, all right, at the park, but that's your basically the best you're ever going to be in that respect until you receive some other external forces
Mm,
or opportunities.
okay.
But
Okay.
if nothing or no one is helping you, then how you gonna get there?
Yeah, that's fair too. Okay, so maybe it might have been a little harsh then.
I mean, you can't necessarily predict 2030 right now, can you?
No, not really.
But there's a lot of intel and information out there currently that can help
Help
you
you.
to do that, but you haven't read it yet.
Right.
You haven't been exposed to it yet.
Right.
Your knowledge of generative AI may be here, where somebody else's knowledge of generative AI is here. And then in another country, they got robots that's doing this stuff every day that look like you and I, and you can't tell the difference. And so the point is, if you don't know that, then how can you have a conversation about that? Let alone plan for your house to be run by generative AI, and you can't even spell AI.
That's fair. I mean, so like using AI as like an example, right? I guess like I'm not an expert. I'm not an SME in using AI at all.
Then
But
this
like
is a good subject to talk
right, right. But like I also I've done a little bit of reading about it, so I understand with my business plan. Yeah, I'm not an SME subject matter expert, by the way. I just want to make sure I throw that out there. But like I don't want to make sure like I don't know it, but I see how it can apply to my business. So that's what
Yes,
I'm thinking.
because you have a business mind.
Mm,
You worked for a major Big Four consulting firm. You graduated from a prominent college.
mm,
And so your journey, your foundation, if you will,
mm,
gives you the information,
mm.
the data, and the intelligence to be able to understand the things that another person may not be able to understand because
Okay,
they have not had that exposure or experience.
okay, okay.
So
Got
for
it.
those,
Everybody.
so for those people who grew up like me,
Mm,
who didn't have money,
mm,
didn't have a father,
mm.
and didn't have access to a lot of stuff, is that a shaky
I was gonna
foundation,
say I don't think that's
or is
shaky.
that just the best we have at the time?
Yeah, I wouldn't classify that as shaky. The reason why you can easily become you can have hard work ethic, whether you're in your situation or upbringing or my
I
upbringing.
agree.
So your foundation is what you make of it. You can be privileged and trash, or you can be poor and very successful. So I mean that when I think foundation, it's more of an internal thing. Yes, your supporting cast definitely help shape and mold you. Like for example, I know my I don't necessarily care to be detailed oriented. But I know for a fact I can be because I was trained to do that. My
Right.
dad was in the military. So all right, I
So you
gotta
have a
make sure I
foundation
sleep
of
on this, you
being
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like so I get that part, but I also had to make sure I carried it with me. But I just admit it. I
That's the
don't
choice.
yeah, and I just admit it, I did not like it. But something about whatever happened growing up reminded me, well, I guess I can see the benefit in it. So
That's your
it,
choice.
yeah, so
Not
it's
all people choose to embrace or keep some of the things that they've been trained in,
mhm,
and that's their choice too.
yeah. But I just wanted to say that because when I was saying earlier about shaky foundation, I'm glad you kind of spoke about that real
Mhm.
quick because yeah, like it's more about the person itself, the person themselves,
If we're
not their
talking about
environment.
people, yeah. I mean, some foundations appear to be shaky, but if they have no control and no choices of the matter,
Mhm.
all right. So it could be looked at as shaky. I look at it as unfortunate
It's
or different, or they just didn't have the means that this person had.
yeah,
I mean,
it's different motivating in
if
the
my
way.
parents had millions of dollars when I wanted to be a DJ at age 12,
Mhm.
And me and Grandmaster Flash and Jazzy Jeff would be competing right now, but I didn't have any of that.
Right.
I had to save my money up for 2 years to go to Radio Shack with my $59, right? So the point is that the foundation that you have is your starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, do you build or expand?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can do both. You can grow, but it's still your choice.
Yeah, that's true. You got to move intelligent about that, though. I don't think you want to just be expanding all willy-nilly.
But you don't know.
I mean, but like some, I don't know.
Man, most people that have ever been in business have got their stories of trials and errors.
But they've done some due diligence, though. And like some
Steve
people
Harvey
don't.
lived in his car. Stephanie Hash lived in her car.
Tiffany.
Tiffany had, I'm thinking of
but they had, I think
Stephanie Mills. Stephanie Mills, I don't even want to talk about her situation, but they got their stories, man.
Do you think they envision? Because I feel like I wanted to be like stand-up comedy, you know what I'm saying? That it seems nice, seems appealing. It's still kind of on the itinerary, maybe slightly. But like even in that, I kind of have a vision of, okay, well, this is what I want things to be like, So like I would be building on top of the foundation. Like, all right, so in terms of jokes, here's what my script would be. Not like I'm gonna be reading it off, but like this is what I want to talk about. These are my topics.
You should have all of that.
And I feel like that's part of that foundation.
And then when your plan fails, when experience and the lessons kick in, you learn more from the things you do wrong than the things you do right. Yeah. Military has millions and billions of dollars worth of concept operations and plans and strategies and everything, that we can just pull off the shelf. But the moment war kicks off, that stuff don't work all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with life.
That's true.
So you can have all of the strategies and plans, and it doesn't do what you're supposed to do. I mean, I wrote a book. It hasn't made $1 million yet. Supposed to.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So I wrote another one. And it hasn't made $1 million. So I wrote 2 more. I got 4 books. And together, none of them have made $1 million yet, right? But my strategy, my plan, and everything I wrote, I can sit there with an Excel spreadsheet and be like, all right, if I sell 10 books, I get this. If I sell 10,000, I get this. If I sell, 1,000, I get, we all can do the math.
Mm.
But life in reality has a whole different lesson waiting for
you. Yeah. And I mean, I guess to your point about not knowing what people can do or like how something can go in terms of like building foundation, I do. Like I met somebody who's actually telling me they want to write their own book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, you know what? That's interesting. Because I know somebody who actually writes a bunch of books. Like he's an author, my boy. It's like, I got you plugged in. But he probably wouldn't have known, so I might have just met some random guy who knows an author and I can get him connected and give him some advice, something like that. Like I might try to plan for it, but no one plans for that. Like you don't, at least I'm not trying to necessarily plan
because you're just living life.
Exactly.
So the point of this whole show, you're just living life.
Yep. But you're also building upon the thing that you've learned throughout that history.
That's part of living life.
That's intelligence. That's hustling. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't recognized by now, each episode is probably going to build on top of one another.
The strategy.
You know what I mean? Like math. I ain't like math growing up, but daggone it, I was in them classes, them advanced classes, like pre-cal in high school. I was really irritated with that back in the day.
I'm not even going to tell you what my highest level of math in high school was, but calculus definitely wasn't on the
I won't try to have it be in mine either. I promise you.
We're just trying to graduate, man.
Nah, I feel that.
Algebra 2 was hard.
It's a little noise. It was a little noise.
So the point about the foundation, I mean, we're sharing living life with the audience. And we talked about foundation. I would say that at the end of the day, you got to have something to stand on.
Yeah.
And whether it be your information, your house, your knowledge, your 2 feet, or your principles, right? And your morals, you have to have a foundation.
Yep.
Because that also determines the next step, the next phase, the next layer that you get to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Mario Brothers, right? Foundation is right there, stage 1.
Hey.
You can't jump and run and grab something. You're going to be stuck there for a while until you're able to jump, run, and grab something.
Yeah.
Because that's the foundation
Mhm.
of the next level.
Mhm.
Now you got to run faster, jump over stuff, grab multiple things because you need to use what you grab
Yep.
in order to do other things. And so now your foundation becomes even more solid.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to level 10,
Mhm.
you have a solid foundation for Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Man, life is like Mario Brothers.
But I mean,
All right.
I'm about to say that sounds like a good way to end the show right there. I don't
It's
know.
all
What do you think?
entertainment until it's not.
Exactly.
Because when it's not, it's actually living life.
That's a quality one. That's a quality one, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed it so far. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell anyone who's anyone about the show. My name is Trey, and as you heard earlier, this is Reggie, and we're just on just living life. That's what we on today. So hope you all enjoyed it. Take care.
Yo, yo.
Yo, yo.